All right, the purpose of this video is to show you how to use the EZ-NetTools business theme, how to edit the header and the banner and the colors, other things like that. So when you first install a new website and you install the EZ-NetTools business theme, it'll look something along these lines. It'll have the name of the website, just another WordPress site, the navigation over here, and it'll have a big banner. And we can change all of this really easily by going to Customize right here. This is only visible if you're logged in, of course. But if I go in here, you'll see there's little pencil icons that I can click on to see things. Like if I want to change this WordPress theme for business websites, I can say something much more appropriate to the website. So we'll just put in here spine surgery specialists. And this is actually not what I'm going to probably keep because this is going to be a much more custom website when it's done, but I want to demonstrate here. And then we can put in some text. It's very simple. Maybe put something shorter than that if you wanted to. But the idea is you can put in whatever text you need to here. Then you can easily change the button from Shop Now to Request Appointment. And then you can make it go to any page you need to, like Contact. Maybe Contact's good. There we go. So that's how you change the content of this banner here. You can also switch the image out, of course. So if you wanted some other picture, this is just an example right now. I'm just going to skip cropping just so you can kind of see. So there's a different picture in the background. You can also get rid of this banner entirely by just hitting hide image, and the whole banner will just go away. Then you can put something else in its place so you don't have to use the banner that comes with the template. I'm going to hit publish because actually I'm going to leave the banner off. The next thing I wanted to show you is how to add a logo. So to do this, you go to Site Identity, click on Logo, and I already have one uploaded, but if you didn't, you can just go to Upload Files and grab something from your computer. But I'll just click here and hit Select, skip cropping, and there it is. Now, right now, it has just another WordPress site there. We don't want that. So we're going to hit Hide Tag. And you'll notice there's a place for a phone number. Sometimes you want that, sometimes you don't. If you don't want a phone number at all, you can just delete it, and the navigation will sit here on the right-hand side. If you do want a phone number, you can just put in whatever you like so. And then the navigation by default will sit in the center, although there are ways we can overcome that if you don't want to sit in the center or be like equally spaced between the logo and the phone number. Now, granted, once you have several more of these, this looks pretty good most of the time, but oftentimes I'll want to have it like sit to the left next to the logo instead of sitting justified with everything else. I'll show you how that works in a minute. Another thing you can do is you can add a site icon, which I recommend. It makes your life easier, I feel like, when you have a little icon of some kind. It could just be the logo, but usually I try to make something square. Right now I'm just going to use this for the moment, but I'll probably make something more substantial in a little bit. So I'll just hit crop. And now you'll see you have a fab icon. This is really faint. And like I said, I don't really recommend using a faint transparent thing like this. I usually recommend using a solid color, making an actual icon. Just make it square. It doesn't matter too much. Maybe 128 by 128 pixels or 256. It's not that important, but it just makes your life a little easier. It makes it easier for people to see, the branding there. And when you're working on a bunch of websites, you can see that having fab icons makes it a lot easier to find what you're looking for quickly. Another option is you can turn on or off the sticky header. That means that it will come down with you when you scroll. There's not enough to see the scrolling yet, but we can come back to that. Colors, this is important to understand. If you want to change the header color, you can change it to anything you want. Just make it green, for example, or blue. Blue looks nice. A lot of times when I change the header color, usually I will change the header text to be white, unless it's a very light color that I've chosen. That just tends to look better. Now, one thing you'll notice that I have this logo cropped very, very tightly, and it looks a little funny. So we're going to use a little bit of CSS for this part. I'm going to show you a couple of neat tricks. So what I did is I have my CSS section here. And if I right click and hit inspect element, I can see that I have an ID called site logo, and I can add things to this logo like margins and all kinds of stuff. So let's just do, let's do site logo. And I'm going to put a couple pixels of padding, maybe 4 pixels of padding. Maybe just on the top and bottom, not on the left and right. That looks pretty good. And sometimes you might even want to adjust the size of the logo. For example, that by default, it's a max height of 78 pixels. But I'm going to change that from 78 pixel max height. I'm going to do this image. I'm going to make that margin. Margins on the outside, padding's on the inside. But I'm going to do margin of 4 pixels on top and bottom, and I'm going to say max height, we'll say 100 pixels. So that makes the logo larger. So if you want to make it larger or smaller, that's a really easy way to do it. If I wanted it really tiny, I could do like 40 or 50. I'm going to do 100 for the moment. So that's how you can adjust your logo pretty easily. Just do something exactly like this. Site logo, image, maybe put a little margin if you want. A lot of times your logo will have some built-in margin, and if it does, you won't need that. But if you do, that's how you can do it really easily, and you can change the max height to adjust the size of this logo. The thing about this template is it's really, really flexible. You can make a lot of changes to it if you need to. You can pretty much build anything you want with it because you can actually get into the template files as well and just edit them directly. And you do that by going to Appearance, Theme Editor. So if you know what you're doing, you can do anything because it's you can make changes to the CSS. I try to keep this fairly simple and clean as much as possible, but put in a lot of things that tend to get reused regularly. Same kind of thing like here at the footer, I can change the footer color really easily as well. If I go into here and click on colors, go to the footer, make that blue as well. Then I'll make the footer text white. That looks pretty good. Then if you want to edit the menu, let's go to Appearance and Menus. And I guess we need to make a few pages. So I guess I'll go to Add New. And I'm just going to make a couple of quick pages like About Us. Publish. I'm going to make another one. I kind of hate the Gutenberg thing, so I'm just going to hit Add New and install the classic editor. This is optional, you don't have to, but honestly, I prefer the interface of the classic editor. It works better, it's less buggy in my experience. Maybe by the time you watch this video, Gutenberg will have improved so much that it's no longer a problem. I don't know. But I'm installing the classic editor, which now makes the pages look like this. And I'm going to say our Sergions. And that looks good. Hit publish. And I'll make one more. Conditions. Oops. Also, if you're ever unsure about spelling, you can always just make sure that's checked. Because I think I spelled that wrong. There we go. Update. Now I have several pages. I need a home page too. Home. If I go back to pages here, that looks pretty good. Something I will do, and this is just a preference thing, on the home, I'll just say I can -2 for the order. That will put the home at the top. So when you go to your pages, it's the first thing you see. That just makes your life a little bit easier for organization. It's not absolutely critical though. Now we have several pages. Now you'll notice that there's several, including like sample page. We want to be able to control this menu a little bit more than just having all the pages be in there. So we're going to go to Appearance, Menus. I'm going to make a menu called Main Menu. Then I'm going to delete the pages we don't need, like we don't need 2 homes. And we don't need sample page. There are going to be more pages later, but this is just enough for demonstration. Once I've saved it, I just need to check Display Main Menu. If I save that, so now I have my menu saved. I've told it to be the main menu, and I have the pages that I want. It's starting to come together a little more. Now, when you first install a WordPress theme too, by default, it's going to show the blog articles on the homepage. We don't want that. We're going to go to Settings and then Reading. And then I want to say your homepage displays not your latest posts, but a static page, specifically the homepage. Hit Save Changes. Let's take a look at that. Now that's looking better. Now, if I go to different pages, you're going to see it says page ID equals 20 or something weird like that. We don't want that either. So if we go to Settings and Permalinks, we're going to change that to Post Name. Save Changes. And now, if I go to these pages, it says /conditions/about us, which is much better. So those are some of your basic features when you're changing the theme, but there's a couple more things I should show you still. Let's go back to Customize. If you ever need to like just put a bunch of social media icons in, we have a whole bunch built into this theme. I pretty much made one for every social media request I've ever had for something. So if it's like Facebook, I'll just put facebook.com, or sure, I'll take that one. Let's see if I have any twitter.com. And it starts making these icons at the bottom. You don't have to use these default icons, but they are here for your convenience. If you find you want to use your own custom icons and not the ones that come with the theme, that's totally cool. What you'll do is you will add them as widgets in the footer. That's another important thing to understand. If I go to Appearance and Widgets, you'll see that there's a sidebar for just the general sidebar. There's a catalog sidebar, which is used if you have a WooCommerce section of your website. If you put items in here, they will only show up like on WooCommerce pages, whether that be catalog pages, checkout, whatever, you know, mostly just catalog pages and product pages. Oh, and by the way, if you don't put anything here, it'll just use these widgets by default. I'm gonna have to take all of these out because most of the time you don't need them. Occasionally you want a sidebar, but in many cases you don't. This gets rid of that right-hand column we had a minute ago. And so I'm going to go back to widgets. I've cleaned up my sidebar, that's great. I do want to put something in my footer. So I'm going to put in an image. And in that image, I'm just going to stick in the logo. That's not really what we're going to do for the long term, but for demonstration, that'll be just great. I'm going to click here, and now I have the logo right here. Another thing that's good to understand is how this works, is that the first row of the footer puts things right here. If you want something to go below it, you'll put it on the second row. And if you want something below that, you'll put it on the third row. If you put multiple widgets, though, in the same row, they will be next to each other. So let's say I add let's just add a little text thing that says Dr. Lynn Stromberg and hit save. Anyways, if I take a look at that, you'll see that Western Spine's here, Dr. Lynn Stromberg is there. It kind of spaces them equally around. I'm going to add another text widget and add this one, Dr. Wright. Hit save. We'll view that. Now we have another section. Let's add one more that has some address information. So again, another piece of text here. Boom. And by the way, I can reorder these any way I want by just going. And if I save that, it should show up. I didn't save for some minute. There we go. So if I save that, it should show up here. Now there's obviously some more refinement we can do to this, but you get the idea of how it works. So this is all in the first row, but if we needed a second row, we could put things under these as well. So you can do a lot in the footer just by putting in widgets in the first, second, or third row. If you want multiple things side by side, you just put them all in one row. If you want things stacked on top of each other, you put them in multiple rows. So that's how you handle the footer in the theme. You can also go into the theme editor and actually edit the CSS if you want to. If you understand the CSS code, that's great. You can go in and make changes, and the sky is pretty much the limit for what you can actually get done. The end result of this page, when I'm through with it, will look something. It's going to look like this. That's the design I've already created. And I'm going to be using our theme, but I'm going to be customizing it heavily. But in many cases, you don't need to go this far. You just need to be able to customize a little bit, like the header, the footer, and then everything in the middle, you might use Elementor or just text and pictures. Either way works just fine. And if you want to edit the banner, like I said, you can always do that. And if you don't want the banner, you just do what I showed you earlier by hitting hide image. But if I wanted to bring it back, I could always just bring back a banner. Boom, spine surgery specialists. So that's some basics about how to edit the theme. I'm trying to think if there's anything else important you need to know. If I do, maybe I'll make a supplementary video. One more thing I meant to show you was how to adjust the menu. So instead of it being centered with the phone number and the logo, we can make it sit to the left or right. We can do that with a tiny bit of CSS, and it's not hard. We're just going to say menu, open and close curly bracket. Then I'm going to say margin right auto. And that will make it so that it will automatically calculate the margin between this and this, and it will sit tight against the left side. I could do the same thing this way to put it on this side as well. So that's a simple way of fixing that issue. Also, if I wanted to have margin auto right, and they'd been like, oh, that's just a little too close, I could say margin left and say like, oh, 8 pixels. That's a little bit more, or I could say 12 pixels, whatever you want. You could even say percentage, which probably isn't what you should do, but actually you might want to in some cases, maybe like 1% or 2% might be totally appropriate. Anyway, those are some options. Really simple CSS to just get the most out of the template and make its layout do what you want.